This is the Fourth Part Podcast, a podcast made by Freemasons to be enjoyed by all. The opinions of the hosts and the guests are their own, and do not reflect any Grand Lodge stance or opinion. And now here are your hosts, the grumpiest past master, and the OG Danielson.
We're not good starters, but I'm a finisher.
We're the worst
I'm a
introduction
finisher.
people ever.
So
We
fuck,
ended
I
up
forgot where we
on
ended.
religion and rituals.
Religion and rituals and how they separate. Now, again, religion and politics are not to be discussed in lodge ever, because those are things.
But why?
Well, in my
Why though? There's a specific reason why.
it's
It's
to
not
me,
that you can't. You can.
hmm
You just there's a breaking point.
Is that your interpretation or is that fact?
I don't want to say it's fact
Because
but
you're
I'm
responsible
saying
enough to have a religion and political conversation, and so am I.
I want to say I'm gonna say it's a fact. You can speak about religion, you can speak about politics as long as it doesn't do what?
Yeah, but I disagree because you're not supposed to do it in lodge. That's not supposed to be spoke about in lodge. However, in the lodge, when you're not indulging in lodge, it's two different things. So maybe you should clarify what you're speaking about.
So normally the rule is you don't speak of religion or politics if it doesn't if it causes disharmony or dissension amongst the brothers. So we can. There's been a common misconception, in my opinion. The same thing with the separation of church and state, which is going on right now in the world. The separation of church and state, that was in a letter written by Thomas Jefferson after they wrote the U.S. Constitution. And some people take it because that's what people love to do. They take things to the extreme, and they don't understand why.
So explain why,
they
because
say
I'm not really following you. So
okay,
land the
so
plane.
we can talk about religion. We can
Mhm.
talk about, because let's be honest,
Mhm.
in a Masonic lodge there is religion. There is
Religion
prayers.
influence or
No, Danny, there is prayers.
Yeah, but you're not saying
from-
our Father.
No,
In
but
lodge.
there is certain sections of Masonry that is pulled directly from a certain volume of sacred law.
Okay.
There is, and it actually is a couple. It comes from a few, and it transcends a few religions, but there is a religious type of aspect. Because again, we talk about you should be able to. You have to believe in a higher power. You have to
But
believe in.
it's okay. So it's an avenue that religion utilizes, which is moral law and conversation with yourself and God.
Mhm.
But it's not specific to a God. So when you say there's definitely religious aspects to it, but it's in reference to your relationship really with yourself and your higher power, not the higher power. And you're not gonna have an argument. No, it's Jehovah or it's Yahweh or it's Jesus or any other significant religion.
Yeah, messiahs. Yeah.
So you have aspects.
Well, that's the
because
thing with
religion,
the Abrahamic God.
right. So
Same
what-
God, different Messiah.
So
With the
religion,
Abrahamic of religions.
So religion, though, and that's the thing. Religion, Masonry, and any type of other ritualistic backed thing, it's like a sport, right? You have religion, whether you're a Yankee fan, Met fan, this fan, that fan, they have the same operating procedure, which is, again, morally, right? Each religion is moral law, how to conduct yourself in society, yada, yada, yada. Masonry has those aspects of it. But as far as emphasizing on what spiritual being you're going to follow or whatever, that is separate. You have certain things you should model yourself after. But as far as worship, I feel that's not a Masonic principle. You don't worship in that essence.
No, we're not worshiping that specific deity. We are just saying that this is the lesson that this is trying to teach you.
There you go.
But shouldn't Masonry be able to say that you can speak religion in a lodge room as long as it doesn't, like how we're having this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to speak religion and not offend.
Well, speak and impose also. It's
right.
two different
you should
things.
be able to speak. You should be able to speak your mind, and you should be able to, as long as you don't cause disharmony in the lodge, you should be able to speak politics as long as you don't cause disharmony in the lodge. Because you have to think back to when our lodges existed, the different periods of time that our lodges existed,
and areas
that they existed. The Boston Tea Party, the Sons of Liberty met in a Masonic lodge. They won't officially say that it was a Masonic meeting. It was the Sons of Liberty, same people. It was met in a lodge in the Green Dragon in Boston. Okay, they met in a lodge room before the Boston Tea Party. Those people were probably 80%, 75% Masons that were in that meeting. You can't tell me that in that meeting they were not having discussions on politics
right.
at that time, because why were they able to have that discussion? The discussion they were having about
at that time.
Yeah, it's politics. They're talking about taxes.
Right.
They're talking about the king, the president. You know, that's their president. That's their government. Yeah. You know, they're talking about the king.
Yeah, I guess it would be politics.
They were having
that crown.
Right. They were having that discussion on politics, but they were able to do it. Why? It wasn't causing disharmony within the lodge. Yeah. So they were able to have those discussions. Do you don't think that the Masons of antiquity during the age of the pharaohs, the actual operative Masons lodges, were talking about the pharaohs and how the pharaohs are treating the workers? You don't think they were talking about him?
But this might have been.
But that was the politics
rule,
of the time.
That might be a newer rule, in my opinion, because back in the day, it was, Britain reigned supreme.
Mm-hmm. The sun never sets on the British Empire.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
But that's imperialism, right?
But you could speak politics because at that time, everybody was affected by the same type of politics. You could speak religion because at that time, the masses were that type.
But don't we live in that type of world right now?
I think
there's only what, 4 superpowers in the world that affect geopolitical policy.
Our Masonry, though, is severely American, as far as
in our lodges. It has to do. It's very specific.
Is that a rule in Britain? Is that a rule on the other side of the world as far as politics and religion?
All I could speak to is what the Grand Lodge of New York.
Right.
But if you can have a discussion in your lodge, mm-hmm. and you don't deviate from the teachings of Masonry, and you don't cause disharmony in your lodge, and you're able to have a discussion, it is allowed. Because when you're a master, you're taught you are to never allow discourse or picks or quarrels to happen in your lodge. So, by that thought process, right? And we'll just use it in American terms. If you're very liberal, if you're in California possibly, or you're very right-leaning and you're in the South, Texas, Florida, Alabama, mm-hmm. like ways of talking, right? Politically, which is just politically, mm-hmm. you may be able to have a light discussion on politics.
I just don't see it. I think you should avoid it altogether.
You should. I mean, you try to, mm-hmm. but if there's a place where you can have a candid discussion on a topic, it should be allowed. The fact that Masonry just bars it all together, I think stifles the growth of the brothers.
So
As
what about
long
defending
as it does not cause
disharmony?
that is the biggest part, I think, of that statement. You cannot have this, you can't have that, if you cannot avoid disharmony. I think that's where Masonry's gone awry over the years, is that we have just said, again, it goes back to separation of church and state. People have said separation of church and state. No religion, no government. No religion, no school. It goes back to that. Let's take Masonry out of it for a second. No religion, no school. No morality teachings. Okay, not forced. It's not forced. But should you be free of hearing? We shouldn't live in a world where you're free of listening to differing opinions. We shouldn't live in a world where you can never hear a different opinion. As long as it doesn't affect you. Masonry goes the extra step. That's more than like the real world. Masonry goes, let's not hear a differing opinion that also makes people feel uncomfortable and causes a fight. To the point that it causes a fight. That's the disharmony. But people want to live in a world right now where they shouldn't even hear a differing opinion. And that's a dangerous place to be in the world where I don't even want to hear anybody else's opinion. And that's not a world I want my kids to grow up in.
I agree. So we say it's in our bio, free speech is important, but the ability to listen is even more important. And you said it, what's the difference between hearing and listening? But in certain things like religion, and in certain other things, I mean, you get into a lot of these religions, and there have been crazy things that's happened to humanity in pushing religion. Doesn't matter if you're, I don't want to say the faiths. I don't want to get into it, but there's been crazy things that have been done in the name of God. Your God, my God, this God, that God. So when it comes to religion, it's better just to avoid it, because you're going to build more walls and bridges with that subject. Then when you get into...
But isn't that what Masonry is supposed to be?
No.
It's to say that you can hear... Masonry is supposed to be, you hear everything and decide for yourself. So that's the original like place of free thinking.
Right.
We're the first place to have democratic voting. We're the first place to do that. Before the Greeks,
but
we existed back to the age of the pharaohs. We're the first place to have, you could hear everything, but you still have your vote.
But it gets in the way. So democratic, where everybody has a say, is different than pushing political motives or saying, hey, I agree with this candidate, that candidate, because people become emotionally charged. You remove logic from the conversation altogether. For me, and from what I've seen, a lot of people, when it comes to politics, Masonry is one of the beautiful fraternities that bridges people, whether you're a mechanic on the street or you're a banker. We wear gloves so I can't see your fingers and say, hey, this guy just did an oil change, or this guy's been touching money all day. We wear gloves. We're all on the level. When you get into politics, a lot of people's political views resonate with them based on where they're at in the money spectrum. We're all middle class. Masonry is a middle class sport. But certain people grew up in, a prestigious town out east in Long Island. They might be strictly Republican. Then you have inner city people who might be Democrat. And then based on what they've been taught, they'll say, oh, this political party is oppressive, or this political party rapes and pillages the poor in their mind, you know. And you have to be educated, but also to have those conversations at different parts in your life and maturity. It's just too much to get in the way. At the end of the day, Masonry became operative, or was operative, became speculative. Group, individual commitment to group success.
But do you not lose the art of debate then?
Well, what are you
In
debating
Masonry,
though?
but
Are you debating on how to complete this job and how easy it is for you to delegate jobs to this guy, to that guy? Or are you debating whether this guy only got that job because this guy's the foreman and that's his cousin, and this, you know, there's certain subjects that merit attention, and there's certain subjects where it's like, you know what, this is, again, it builds a bridge.
So there's a working tool for debate. It's called the skerrit.
Mm-hmm.
The skerrit is what we would call a mason's line.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a wrapped around line on a spindle,
Right.
and you
You
use
snap a line.
Yeah, you snap a line. That's called the skerrit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Masonic tool called the skerrit, and that's kind of like the tool, in my opinion, the tool for debate, right?
I love that, by the way.
You pull that line across, all the way across all the different stones, and go, this is our level here across the board for our wall that we're building, and you have to try to attain this line.
Mm-hmm.
But the debate part of it is, we can talk about things. You can chisel off the chips that are on your stone to make it to that skerrit. That's the debate part, is chiseling those little bits off.
Right.
But are you not denying Masons their growth by saying, just don't talk about it? That's what I feel. I feel like you're denying Masons their spiritual growth, even if you don't talk about religion or politics, by saying, just don't talk about it, because you're not going to learn anything if you don't hear the other side.
I agree with you, first of all, 1,000%. I'm playing devil's advocate, because I can have a conversation about anything. And I think that's why we're doing what we're doing. However, I've seen so many people that in discussion, they hear one little trigger word, and that's it. They're listening to respond. They're not listening to understand. And I think whoever came up with that Masonic rule just found it to be, you know what, for the masses, it's just easier to just keep it out of the way. There's plenty of other things to talk about, because to wield that conversation of politics or religion, you have to be a responsible person. You have to be highly trained. You have to be able to deliver your argument with an opening for somebody to also debate you, but also they left an opening for you to join their side, and vice versa, because at that point, we're not arguing about who's right and who's wrong. That's a different discussion. At that point, you're trying to show them your view through your window, because I can be in the same room as you. On one side it's raining, and on the other side it's sunny. And I'm like, look, Matt, it's raining. And you're looking at it, no, it's sunny. What are you talking about? And at that point, we're trying to push views instead of seeing it from the other person's perspective.
But have we not watered it down then?
Absolutely.
I think we have.
Absolutely.
But that's why I think we need to take that rule more literally when they say, as long as it doesn't form a disharmony in the craft.
You have to be a
And
responsible.
it takes a lot of effort. I'm not saying it's easy.
Mhm.
By no means saying that it's easy to do that. But if we take the easy way out and say, just don't talk about it at all, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
But for you, and maybe for me, but to certain brothers, I don't think they can handle that responsibility.
It's not meant to be every brother's responsibility, though. Whose responsibility is it supposed to be?
The master, but
It's supposed to be the master's.
Look at Facebook.
Or
look at how Facebook is. A lot of conversation. I know brothers who have jumped out of lodge and they don't come back because of a disagreement they've had with a brother on Facebook.
But isn't that then the elder statesmen, or the not even say the elder statesmen, the brothers that have the capability of having those conversations to say, come back, this is what we need to talk about. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
like breaking stones is not easy.
No.
Like hammering stones out of a quarry is not easy. Carrying stones out of a quarry is not easy. Building a stone structure is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be hard for a reason. That's why those buildings last thousands of years. That's why the pyramids are still there.
All right, so real
It's
quick.
a very difficult thing to do. But when you do it, it lasts forever.
So real quick. So let's have a quick little debate. And picking a president,
Mhm.
what is more important? That president's moral fiber or the policy he pushes for America?
I mean, moral fiber, I think they're kind of too intertwined, though.
Political policy and moral fibers. I mean,
So you have to kind of elaborate a little bit more. Because
okay, so if you
like
have
moral fiber,
Mhm.
how do you mean moral fiber? How he carries himself?
Yeah, right. So a president, in my opinion, should be the highest caliber of American citizen.
Mhm.
On the world stage. You have to carry yourself a certain way, and you have to be the epitome of those classic American standards and qualities. Now, you may have somebody who's great. Let's just say, man, I don't even want to. I don't want to give away any political beliefs because I don't like.
I think I know where you're going with this. So
But,
I would say this.
Uh-huh.
I would rather somebody be on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
be more abrasive. And we have a couple brothers that are like this.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit more rough on their day-to-day carrying them themselves
Right.
than what they produce at the end of the day.
Okay.
I would rather somebody be swearing like a sailor.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'd rather, I'll just make an example up. I'd rather my general contractor
Mm-hmm.
show up looking like he got dragged behind a horse,
Mm-hmm.
right? Show up in a broken down pickup truck
Mm-hmm.
and looks like he's homeless. But when he does my finished carpentry, it looks beautiful.
Right.
I would rather the production, what he produces, his product of his work, be fruitful over what you see with your eyes.
Perfect. Perfectly said. So now, a lot of people can't get past that
Mhm.
first image, and they won't even give it a chance. Like you could go on Facebook right now, and somebody will be in front of a supermarket begging for money. Get out of here, you bum! Don't anybody give them money
I got a
because
perfect example for this when you're done.
people, you're gonna start attracting people like that. And then the first guy that comes by and gives them money, that guy's like, all right, here's $1,000 because you're a great human being. So that other person holds themselves to a higher standard. However, they look down on humanity. So you can hold yourself to a higher standard. Your job is to uplift humanity. But while they're on that pedestal, they're just looking down and, oh, no, because you're less fortunate or because you're begging for money. In their opinion, that's a lack of discipline or whatnot. They're basing your story based on what they've lived.
So there's a man, if you Google the man with the golden voice,
Mm-hmm.
he was a homeless man, and somebody like pulled up to him. He was homeless, video recorded. The guy has a voice that could be like Mike
Christmas
Rowe.
Morning?
He sounds like Mike Rowe, like
Okay.
that type of like deep. Like he could be narrating like movie trailers,
Right.
and he would pull up, and you know what I'm talking about, Karina? And we have Karina here, Danny's wife.
My main squeeze. Nah, I'm just kidding. The only squeeze.
And we have they would pull up and they would interview this guy, and he would kind of give like these intros to like he would do like these mock intros to
You talking about Mr. Movie Phone?
no,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
yeah.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
And he was a homeless man, and people would pay him no attention, and he became viral off of these because people would just discount this guy, and he was just down on his luck,
Right.
and because that's the way he looked.
Yeah.
And then he opened his mouth, and people were like, "Oh my God, the man with the golden voice!" And he ended up getting off the street, becoming like he does like not like radio broadcasts and stuff like that. And
It's crazy.
he's got a beautiful
sound,
voice.
right?
It's unbelievable, But that again, that's the same thing. I'd rather you be what you produce, not what you. What
Reflect?
do you? Again, not what you see. Your visual.
That's hard.
I'd rather.
Bro.
I get it. It's
That's hard.
it's a human condition. It's a human condition to not be able to look past that.
Because presentation really is everything.
Yeah.
And going back to that, right? Because we're speaking on homeless. What's the hardest job in the world to have? We saw this. I forgot who did the stand-up. The hardest job is being homeless your first week, because you really don't look homeless. So you're begging for your clothes are still clean.
Yes, I get
your
what
clothes
you're
are still
saying
clean, and it's like, yo, I need money. And yo, what do you mean you need money?
Your kicks are still clean.
Yeah, right. Yo, it's my first week, man. It's my first week.
Damn.
Like, give me a couple weeks. I looked the part.
That is fucked up and so.
But it's comedy. It's comedy. It's comedy.
Oh my God. Oh.
I forgot who said it. I want to really give him credit. Wow, I'll find out. Forgive me. But that's comedy. And comedy is so important in this day and age. I mean, you hear anybody from Dave Chappelle to Bill Burr talking about it. The ability to listen without emotion.
I mean, Jerry Seinfeld was the master.
He said
the
what?
master of my favorite pastime, people watching.
Oh, yeah.
He was the master of people watching. He just sat there and just watched the hilarity unfold around him.
Yeah.
And that's literally what that show, it's a show about nothing. It was a show about nothing.
That's beautiful.
It was just like,
beautiful.
hey, let's just see how funny life is around you.
Because everybody has their quirks. Everybody goes through life their own way. And even in doing this podcast, sometimes I watch myself and I'm like, damn, I do that. I'm an idiot. But to be vulnerable. Seriously, no, to be vulnerable.
Karina was like, make sure you tell him he says right a lot.
I've been telling him, you're an idiot. So he finally admitted it. But, to be vulnerable and to put yourself in a position where you can reflect and adjust and correct. We had this conversation the other day, and I'm like, if this podcast never takes off, one thing I got out of it is to be able to speak and just put it out there. Who cares? Bet on yourself. So many people don't bet on themselves because they're scared. Stop being scared. Go out and do something. Don't. Who cares about what? No, seriously. Who cares about what anybody thinks? And you know what? I credit you, Matt, because you went out, you did all of this, and you said, "Yo, let's do this." I
feel like we just got to the point where we're just like, we just need to rip the Band-Aid off and just
exactly.
Just do it.
That's perfect.
I can't. You can't just keep saying talk about it,
Right.
and let's just do it.
I always have great ideas, but a lot of times execution, you talk yourselves out of it. At this point in my life, I think I've outgrown that, but for so long, I always gave people great ideas and I never executed it, or I've always started it and never finished it.
I think masonry is like, how many people do we have? We've said it a million times. Like people like, it's great to be an idea guy,
right?
And it's okay to not have the time to do it. Mm-hmm. But can you execute it?
Can you? I mean, yeah, that's the difference between the movers and the shakers of the world.
Yeah, that's if you can't actually create a plan to actually make it be executed. If you're gonna expect other people to do work for you, you have to like at least formulate the plan for them.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't just dump ideas on people and go make it happen.
Well,
You know,
but you can too. If you're the
you
type
can't
of
do
leader.
it all the time. Is what I'm getting.
But
at.
if you're the type of leader, like we just had a conversation, and my wife, sometimes, man, she gets on me because I see these talents she has, and I see these things, and I'm just like, yo, just do it. And I push her into the pool to see if she could swim. He said, why'd you fucking push me? Oh my God. And then she's like, wow, this water's not so bad. You know? And, you know, the whole time I'm getting dragged because, oh, you're forcing me to do something that I don't want to do, yada, yada, yada. But then she, later on, and that's where it's like, you know what? I'll go through the combing, say whatever you want about me, da, da, da. But at the end of the day, you're going to be like, man, I'm glad you did that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that. You put me in an uncomfortable position, and constantly she surprises me all the time when, you know, there's times where she'll go through something and I'm like, wow, that would have broke a lot of people, and she comes out swinging and then does it again. The second time is the first time she foul tipped it off. The second time it's out of the park.
So let's go back a few steps.
Mm-hmm.
We were
Tell me
talking
what to
about
do.
religion, and we were talking about.
Oh man, who's that? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
We were talking about initiatic
Mm-hmm.
experience in religion
Mm-hmm.
and how Masonry, the initiatic experience is important because that's what moves people. If a degree is given kind of half-assed.
Now, when you say half-assed,
I don't want to say half-assed.
Okay,
If it's
all
not,
right.
I mean, listen. I've seen some degrees given half-assed, so I'm just going to say half-assed.
yes.
There's some degrees,
Lack of preparation when he says
yeah.
half-assed. Lack of preparation.
they haven't been given to the point where they should be. Right.
You're
There's
worried
only-
about getting done, but you're not finished.
right, and we as brothers of a lodge, we're kind of, it's on us to provide. We've heard it a million times, those rituals. We've heard it a million times, the first and second degree, the third degree, and
So on.
we're just and so on and so forth. You're just trying to get through it, and you're going through the paces, right? Going through the steps. Just for us, it's routine, but we forget that for somebody, it's the first time.
Yeah, it's gotta be about the candidate. You know, we're such perfectionists. A lot of times, we'll go through a ritual, and again, you're just trying to just say everything right. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. But you know, if you trip up on something, just keep pushing. Don't get hard on yourself because, like you said, for somebody, for you, you might have done it 60 times in the last 20 days, but for somebody else, it's their first time experiencing that type of storyline, that beauty. So think about it as when you're going through practicing, you might be that
might
life
be the
memory.
only time,
Right.
or the most. It's going to be the most influential time.
And how often are you put in a position where you can create a lifelong memory for somebody you just met?
Oh, it's besides your kids, none.
So
Zero.
you got to capitalize.
There's almost, I mean, I want to say zero, but there's very few times as an adult you can lay an impression on somebody who's not your child. It's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah.
You know, that you can lay that type of foundation for somebody where if they've gotten to the point where they're going through the first degree or the second degree or the third degree, where they're so open-minded, that candidate or that brother, if they're going to the second or third degree, is so open-minded and attentive as they can be at that moment of their life because they're doing it. Because as an adult, you have to be an adult to be a Mason. To say that they're going to carve out this moment, this attention span, they're going to give it to us. We need to respect that and say they deserve
sacred.
as best as we can give it, because this is an adult. This isn't a child where they have no choice. They have to listen to their parents.
I mean,
their captive attention, right? As an adult, they've already formulated the human being they're going to become at that point, for the most part. And they're giving other adults the amount of attention they would give a parent or an elder in their lives. They're saying, I'm going to open my mind up, and I'm going to give this person a chance to sculpt me as a person.
Right.
That's very rare. That only happens in the military.
Yeah.
I mean, right, the military.
Yeah.
And maybe certain jobs.
Because you have people
where they say, I'm a grown-ass person.
There's something
I'm
more.
I'm going to let you change who I am.
Right.
Yeah. And this is your chance. So we have to seize that opportunity to say and respect it. That's the biggest thing, is respecting that level of openness that they're giving us. So we have to give them something that's the most that we can.
And how often do you, as an older gentleman,
I'm 37.
But no. But I'm saying, right? You're 37. You start a new job tomorrow. You trust everybody at that job?
No, not at all.
All right, so that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying at 37,
right.
You know what?
At 27, at 17, you're not going into a place and say, all right.
And it gets harder as you get older. Can you imagine being? Yeah. I couldn't imagine being 50.
So you come into an organization,
joining a Masonic lodge, going,
I trust.
This is what. Yeah, I trust you, and I barely know you.
Right.
I trust you, and you need to.
Exactly.
And I want to hear what you have to say that could shape the type of person that I am for the rest of my life.
So should we do into, because this is good to play off of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I ended my first episode.
You did it.
All right, I finished. One time I finished. Yo.
May your cornerstone be square, level, and true, and may your journey through Freemasonry ever be aged in the barrel of life. Thank you all for joining us.